a memorandum of understanding with the Tampa Bay Rays about a proposed ballpark. You're going to get a sense of what could happen next and how much it's going to cost. And you can also weigh in on the issue with Florida Matters Live and Local. That's ahead after the news.
Florida laws shape everything, from your taxes to your kids' education. Your Florida is a journalism project from WUSF, connecting you with the decisions that matter and the people making them. I'm editor Amy Tardif. Your Florida is across the state, on air, online, and on social media.
Poll workers are the backbone of every election, and Sarasota County Supervisor of Elections Ron Turner wants you to join the team for the August 18th primary election. Learn more and apply at sarasotavotes.gov.
Baseball season is in full swing as summer makes its way to Tampa Bay. However, America's favourite pastime can lead to more time at the doctor, especially for young players. As youth baseball gets more competitive, doctors are seeing more serious shoulder and elbow injuries. I'm Matthew Petty, and coming up on Florida Matters Live and Local, we'll talk about the culture around youth baseball and whether it's changing the game in ways that puts young athletes at risk of injury. Also this hour, how Florida's rising electricity costs are forcing homeowners to make some tough choices in their budgets. Also get an update on the new Rays Stadium proposal as the Hillsborough County Commission and the Tampa City Council vote on a memorandum of understanding for the stadium. And meet Tampa's champion pool shark, Victoria Parker. Talking about all of this and taking your calls and emails, 813-755-6562 is the number, or FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. First, these headlines.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche is not ruling out the possibility that rioters who believe they were wrongfully prosecuted over the 2021 insurrection at the U.S. Capitol might get paid from a more than $1.7 billion fund. The Justice Department sparked concerns among members of Congress that setting up a fund to resolve President Trump's multi-billion-dollar lawsuit against the IRS would amount to a taxpayer-funded payout to Trump's friends. At a budget hearing today, Blanche told Republican Senator Susan Collins of Maine the fund is structurally similar to an Obama-era fund designed to compensate Native American farmers who allege they were victims of racial discrimination.
It is true that this is unusual. That is true. But it is not unprecedented, and it was done to address something that had never happened again either. So there is an unprecedented nature of what we did yesterday in response to years and years of weaponization, just to correct a few things.
Democratic Senator Chris Van Hollen of Maryland says the fund is, quote, pure theft of public funds. The death toll from the ongoing Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo has risen to 131, according to local health authorities. NPR's Jonathan Lambert reports more than 500 people are suspected to be sick because of the outbreak.
On Tuesday, the head of the World Health Organization said he is deeply concerned about the scale and speed of this outbreak. A rarer species of the Ebola virus, called Bundabuyo, is behind it. Standard field tests often miss this virus, and it's likely that it's been spreading in the region for weeks under the radar. At least one American, a doctor who is working in DRC, tested positive and is experiencing symptoms. The risk to the U.S., however, is low, as Ebola doesn't spread as easily as an airborne disease like COVID. But the risk to Central Africa is high. Because it's a rarer species, there are no approved treatments or vaccines for the virus that's spreading. Jonathan Lambert, NPR News.
President Trump's discount website for prescription drugs called TrumpRx is getting an update. The site will now include hundreds of generic drugs. Here's NPR's Sydney Lepkin.
TrumpRx has added 602 generic drugs. That's in addition to the brand name drugs available to cash-paying patients at a discount. The site offers what it calls presidential deals on brand name drugs that range from 10% off for GSK's antiviral inhaler Relenza to up to 93% off for Novartis's multiple sclerosis pill Mayzent. Users can print coupons to use at a pharmacy or follow links to drug company websites to purchase medication. TrumpRx also includes generic drugs at what it calls standard prices. It directs users toward discount sites like Amazon and Cost Plus Drugs. President Trump says more than 10 million people have visited TrumpRx.gov. Sydney Lepkin, NPR News.
This is NPR.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Made in Cookware, Made In Cookware is crafted by chefs for chefs and designed for restaurants and home kitchens around the world. Their cookware can be found at madeincookware.com. This is NPR.
You're listening to WUSF 89.7. I'm Craig Kopp. The man accused of killing 2 University of South Florida PhD students pled not guilty yesterday. WUSF's Steve Newborn reports his trial won't begin until next year.
Hisham Abu Garbe didn't appear in court. Instead, he entered a written not guilty plea. He faces 7 charges, including 2 counts of first-degree murder. He's accused of killing Zamil Limon and Nahida Bristi, who were getting advanced degrees on student visas. Limon's body was found on the Howard Franklin Bridge, and Bristi was discovered a few days later near the bridge in Tampa Bay. An affidavit said Abu Garbe asked ChatGPT about body disposal and bought items like black trash bags before Limon and Bristi were reported missing. Investigators allege he stabbed the couple and concealed their bodies before disposing of them. A jury trial is set to begin in November of 2027. Steve Newborn, WUSF 89.7 News.
Despite gas prices sitting at a 4-year high, a record number of travelers are still expected to hit Florida roads and crowd airports during the Memorial Day holiday. The AAA Auto Club is forecasting 2.7 million Floridians will travel more than 50 miles this week. That's just under 1% more than last year. Those driving will be paying around $1.40 more a gallon than they did in 2025. AAA spokesman Mark Jenkins says Floridians should still expect it to be busy this week.
It's going to cost more money at the pump for holiday travelers, but by and large, we're not seeing people change plans. I mean, they're not canceling plans. In most cases, what people are doing is just budgeting differently.
Jenkins says the worst times to travel will be Thursday and Friday afternoon, as well as Memorial Day itself. Orlando and Miami are 2 of the top 5 U.S. destinations for the holiday. Today, we're looking at partly sunny skies. We've got a high of 92 and a 50% chance of afternoon rain. I'm Craig Kopp, WUSF 89.7 News.
When you listen to WUSF, you can tell you're home. Local newscasts keep you up to date on things like school safety in Hillsborough County or high water bills in Pinellas. You couldn't be anywhere else. From the Collard Green Festival in St. Pete to the Symphony on the Sand on Anna Maria Island, WUSF is where you are.
This is Florida Matters live and local. I'm Matthew Petty. We're broadcasting from the Doctors Lorraine Rubis and Neil Frankel studio at WUSF in Tampa. Well, coming up a bit later in the show, we're going to be talking with Hillsborough County Commissioner Joshua Wostal about the $2.3 billion price tag for the proposed Rays Stadium. How much of that the public is being asked to chip in. You can weigh in. What do you think about the proposal? What the public's being asked for? Give us a call, 813-755-6562. That's later in the show. You can also, in the meantime, send an email to FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. Now, turning to youth baseball, this week, Tampa's own Jesuit High School Tigers and the Berkeley Prep Buccaneers are competing for the state baseball champ in Fort Myers. But as youth baseball grows more competitive and pitchers throw harder than ever, doctors are seeing more serious shoulder and elbow injuries in young athletes. Here's a young Jesuit player sidelined by an injury watching his teammates in the field.
Sucks, man. Got to stay the course.
Got to. And don't try to rush it back either.
Oh. It's hard not to, man. It's so hard. Sitting here watching them play, dude, it's one of the worst feelings ever.
Well, the arms are younger, the pitches are faster, and the pressure to compete may be changing youth baseball. Joining us to talk more about this is Catherine Smith, Spectrum Bay News 9 sports reporter. Catherine, thank you so much for coming back.
I love coming here, of course.
Also joined by Dr. Jason Zaremski, director of the University of Florida's Health's Throwing Clinic. Dr. Zaremski, thank you as well.
Thanks for having me.
And we want to hear from you. If you played baseball as a kid, or maybe you've got a kid who plays now, have you noticed more pressure to throw harder and train year-round at younger ages? And what do you think about youth sports? Are they becoming too intense? Join the conversation. The number is 813-755-6562. That's 813-755-6562. You can also email FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. Dr. Zaremski, let me start with you. Why are we seeing so many more elbow and shoulder injuries in young pitchers right now?
Well, I think part of it is more and more we're seeing that, velocity is king, and we're seeing it at the major league level. And then from the major league level, it kind of permeates down to pro ball, college, and so on and so forth. So you take that, then you add on to the fact that, especially in Florida, we can play all year round as opposed to a northern climate. Then you add on that some of our training programs are better than they were 20, 30, and 40 years ago. And you kind of have a recipe for improved performance, but it comes at a cost for increased risk of injury, particularly with the elbows and shoulders.
Can you put a number on it, like in terms of how many you would have been seeing, say, 10 years ago compared to now? Like what are the numbers telling you?
Well, we don't have an exact number because it's hard to get every single throwing injury from throughout, the country. But what you can say, you look at some surgical offices and the number of Tommy John surgeries or what's called UCL reconstruction or repair, they are significantly greater in your younger teenage athletes before than in the late 90s, early 2000s, 2010s. And there's data that just continues to go up. In fact, there was a study that just came out recently that comparing to the first decade, from 2006 2012, the number of surgeries and specifically repairs are continuing to go up. And that's with all of the extra precautions that we're trying to take, which includes things like pitch counts, trying not to throw for maybe 3 months per 12 months. So there's obviously something we're missing, and the kind of the common theme seems to be a combination of overuse and the quest to throw harder.
So Dr. Zaremski mentioned Tommy John surgery, and Catherine, we were talking before we got on air. You said those are 3 words that strike fear into the hearts of coaches and managers everywhere. Who was Tommy John's? What is the surgery?
I was going to say, if you ever want to freak out a Major League Baseball official, just say those 3 words because nothing shuts down a pitcher quicker than a little twinge in their elbow, a little twinge in their shoulder. It is, and I think why you're seeing it more in Major League Baseball is because of the overuse at the youth age groups. And what's happened with youth sports, so it used to be if you were a good athlete, you would play a variety of sports. You would play soccer, you would play basketball, you would play football, you'd play baseball. But then if you were a good pitcher, you started to start specializing, and they're starting to start specializing at younger and younger ages and starting to pitch more. And now at the Florida High School Athletic Association that governs the high school sports at the high school level, there is a pitch count. But a lot of these kids play travel ball. They play in other leagues that do not have that pitch count. So they're getting overused in these other leagues. So by the time they get to high school, a lot of them, we've had high school players that have to have Tommy John surgery before they even get to, if they're good enough to get to the pro, before they even get to the pros.
And so just for the lay person, this is like reconstructing the elbow, and it takes how long to recover?
It's about a year, and it used to be longer. And I will say it's kind of the equivalent of an ACL surgery or ACL injury at the football level, where that used to be a 2-year process. Now it's down to about 6 months to get back on the field. So there has been a lot of progress in getting players back, but it's a major surgery, and a lot of guys come back and they will be shut down immediately because they start feeling a little twinge, and you never want to hear a player tell you something's going on with my elbow. Next thing you know, they're on the DL.
Yeah, okay. Dr. Zaremski, I'm wondering too, are you seeing anything equivalent in, say, softball, or is this just baseball where these injuries are popping up?
No, you'll see a couple of these injuries in softball. You'll see a couple of them in the track and field sports, specifically if you're a javelin thrower. But quite honestly, in throwing athletes, not to get too deep in the weeds, it's really due to the biomechanics of how you throw a ball. That's why you don't really see this in American quarterbacks. You don't see this in softball. You don't see this if you look at some other very popular international sports like cricket and handball. You just don't see it. It's because of all the stress that's on the elbow when you throw, and the more and harder you throw, the more stress that's on the elbow. More stress that's on the elbow, stuff starts to wear down. And as Catherine said, if we prevent these injuries from occurring when you're 10 to 15 years old, that means when you're 15 to 20 or 25 and you've continued to progress, you don't have wear and tear in the elbow when you're throwing much harder.
Yeah.
So I think that's been the challenge. This is not a fix that's going to happen in 6 months or a year. This is a generational fix. And we've seen, if you look at the numbers, there's been a significant spike since the mid-1990s in the number of these surgeries. and that's 30, 35 years. It's going to take a long time to get these numbers to level off or even go down.
We're talking with Catherine Smith, who is a reporter for Spectrum Bay News 9. Also with us, Dr. Jason Zaremski, who leads UF Health's throwing clinic, talking about young baseball players sustaining injuries. Want to hear from you too. Maybe you played as a kid. Maybe you've got a child playing baseball now, or maybe you're a coach and you're thinking about how to manage your players and make sure they're not getting overextended. How much has youth baseball played since you were a player, if you were a baseballer in your youth? Give us a call, and maybe you think, wondering what you think about the line between healthy competition and pushing young players too far. The number is 813-755-6562. That's 813-755-6562. You can also email FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. So, Catherine, when you talk to players, coaches, and parents, I mean, do you get the sense there is a lot more pressure now to throw harder earlier, and has the speed at which you pitch become the thing that young players strive for?
Well, I love that you used the word pressure, because if you are a pitcher, you're usually the best player on your team, and pitching is everything in baseball. These teams like Jesuit and Berkeley that are competing for these state titles, usually your state champions have really good pitching. They're really deep pitching. But the pressure to be good and be better, you drive anywhere around Tampa Bay right now, and there are all these specialized baseball clinics. Usually there are a lot of former players, and they open up these clinics to help players become better pitchers. So there's a lot of pressure because there's a lot of money involved. Like, you're either getting a scholarship to college or you're getting drafted by a Major League Baseball team. Like, you go to any of these high-profile high school baseball programs like Jesuit, there are Major League Baseball scouts at every game, and they all have their radar guns up, and they're seeing how fast you are pitching.
Dr. Zaremski, I wonder if this is something you've been thinking about, but as the game changes and there's a quest for more velocity, or maybe if you're even thinking about the batters, like just the bid to sort of crush the ball for a home run every time, like, does that take away something from the game? And is there a way to, say, develop a pitching style that has more nuance? You can still be good, but there's maybe more kind of skill and craft involved?
I mean, I guess speaking more as a fan than use my medical expertise. I grew up in Chicago, and then my wife's from Boston, so I'm a huge Cubs fan, Red Sox fan. I played baseball in college. Yeah, there's a little bit of, I love watching college baseball and softball, but watching Major League Baseball now, it seems like it's either strikeout or home run because the pitchers are just throwing so hard every single time. So I think there's a little bit that's lost, but again, that's my personal opinion as a fan of the game. But I definitely think, it's really difficult when every single pitcher, it seems like the major league level is throwing upper 90s. Most closers are throwing over 100 now. It's not unique to, when I was growing up, when you two were growing up, it was basically Nolan Ryan and everybody else. That's not the case. Nolan Ryan would be an average fastball pitcher now, which is kind of scary to say.
Wow. Catherine, for the young pitcher chasing their scholarship or their pro dreams, how can they balance that ambition with their health?
It is a balance, but that's a difficult balance because, when you're that good, you're going to have so many people in your ears, and you're going to have your high school coach in your ear that will be doing the pitch count. But then you're also going to have your travel ball coach in your ear that wants to win that weekend trophy because there are literally tournaments every weekend for these players. So it's hard to find that balance. But if you can think long term, and that's really hard when you're a teenager to look far ahead, but if you can think long term, you want to preserve that arm because if you're good enough to get to the major leagues, you don't want it to be an issue by the time you get there. And it will be an issue if you overuse it at the youth level.
Yeah, there's got to be something to be said, I should say, as well, for just enjoying the game and having fun with it.
Remember that?
Trying to be the best.
Remember when you just played for fun?
Yeah. We're going to have to leave the conversation there, but thank you both so very much for your expertise. Catherine Smith is with Spectrum Bay News 9 covering sports. Thank you so much, Catherine.
Thank you.
And Dr. Jason Zaremski, who leads UF Health's throwing clinic. And thank you as well, Dr. Zaremski. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Still to come, Florida ranks among the highest in the country for cutting off customers' electricity for an inability to pay. We're going to talk about why in a few moments. And later in the show, stick around. We're chatting with Hillsborough County Commissioner Joshua Wostal ahead of tomorrow's vote. Well, votes later this week to approve that memorandum of understanding for this yet-to-be-built Rays stadium. Want to hear about what you think, how much public money should go into the stadium. You can tune into that in about 10 minutes. Florida Matters Live and Local continues in a moment. Stay with us.
The 2026 World Cup is coming to North America this summer, and our partners at NPR want to make sure you're pitch ready. Soccer Edition will bring you the latest World Cup stories and buzz from now until the champion is crowned on July 19th in New Jersey. So if you're a Rowdies fan or you love a global party, listen to Soccer Edition every Wednesday afternoon on All Things Considered, starting at 4 on WUSF 89.7.
Listener support powers WUSF. Funding also comes from the family law firm of Harris, Hunt & Durr, lawyers who listen and act, protecting each client, their family, and their financial future. Experienced trial lawyers, tough negotiators, collaborative divorce resolution. Harris, Hunt & Durr, protection without destruction.
Turn your old car into powerful local journalism and programming you love on WUSF. When you donate it, we'll handle the pickup for free, and you'll get a tax deduction. And best of all, you'll fuel the news coverage and local shows that keep our community informed and connected. Call 866-WUSF-CAR or visit WUSF.org.
Welcome back to Florida Matters Live and Local. I'm Matthew Petty. Florida households had their electricity turned off more than 2 million times in 2024. But it wasn't because of storms. People are getting their electricity turned off because they can't pay the bill, and power prices in the state keep going up. Joining us to discuss the issue is Amy Green. She's an environmental journalist with Inside Climate News. Amy, thank you so much for being with us.
Great to see you.
And if you've had to wrestle with a tough choice of paying your electric bill or maybe another necessity like gas or food, you can join the conversation. The number's 813-755-6562. That's 813-755-6562. You can call Florida Matters at WUSF.org. So, Amy, you wrote a few weeks back that Florida electricity shutoffs are some of the highest in the country. Just sort of dive into that data a little bit. Where did this information come from?
That's right. It's according to a first-of-its-kind federal report on energy insecurity across the country. The report is based on final notices and electric and natural gas disconnections, and it was compiled by the U.S. Energy Information Administration after Congress appropriated funding for the report under the Biden administration in 2023. And the report is important because 22 states don't require utilities to report this information on household disconnections. And so the report offers a first nationwide picture of energy insecurity. And it shows that a lot of households across the country, and especially in Florida, are dealing with this problem at a time when fossil fuel emissions are warming the global climate and making temperatures hotter.
Yeah, we know about that in Florida, of course, and we're heading into summer, so the AC is running pretty much full-time at the moment. How does
Absolutely.
Florida compare to other states like Texas and California? Because there were some interesting numbers when you kind of got a little bit into the details there with those big states.
Well, Florida households had their electricity shut off about 2.1 million times in 2024 because of an inability to pay, and that number was among the highest of any state. Texas had the most disconnections at 3 million, and Florida came in second. And just for a little context, Matt, California, Texas, and Florida, of course, are the nation's most populous states, but there were big differences between them when it came to this data. While Texas had about 96 disconnections per 1,000 residents and Florida had 90, California only had 12.
Yeah, so why is that? Because you talked to some experts about it and they had some ideas, right?
That's right. So one source that I talked to, the problem does appear to be concentrated in the South, which of course is a region that is especially vulnerable to hotter temperatures. And one source said he attributed the problem to weaker supplementary programs in southern states and said national standards would help the situation. In Florida, I talked to the state's consumer advocate for customers of investor-owned utilities, Walt Triweiler, and he said another problem is that Florida is one of 2 states in the South without a legislative disconnection statute.
Okay, so that would be some protections for consumers from getting their power turned off if they can't pay the bill.
That's right.
If you're just joining us on Florida Matters Live and Local, we're talking with Amy Green with Inside Climate News, talking about Florida's high rate of power disconnection. A new study came out tracking data from 2024. First of its kind study shows that Florida is up the top of the list when it comes to households getting their power shut off. More than 2 million, in fact, had their power cut off in 2024. I want to hear from you too. Maybe you've had to wrestle with that choice of paying your electric bill or paying for other things like food or gas or maybe your phone bill. The number is 813-755-6562. That's 813-755-6562. You can also email FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. Amy, I know this data kind of looks at 2024 and leading up to that, but do we know sort of what's happened since then? Like, would things have gotten any better in 2026?
Sources I talked to said the problem likely has gotten worse since 2024. There's a couple of things that have happened since then. You may remember that last November in 2025, state regulators approved a $7 billion rate hike for Florida Power and Light, which is the state's largest utility. Consumer groups characterized the rate hike as the largest in U.S. history, although the rate hike does face a legal challenge in state court. Meanwhile, FPL profit margins are skyrocketing, and that's according to a separate report by the Energy and Policy Institute, which is a watchdog group. And that report found that FPL profit margins consistently ranked among the highest in the nation over the past 5 years and topped other utilities in 2024 and 2025. And today, we published a story at Inside Climate News about a proposed merger between NextEra Energy, FPL's parent company, and Dominion, which is the nation's sixth largest utility. And if this is approved, it would create a mega company at a time when data centers are poised to reshape the industry because of explosive energy demand. And one source told me that FPL's rate hike last year positioned NextEra to financially pursue this merger.
That's interesting. I mean, maybe a little bit of speculation, Amy, but do we know what this merger and creating this mega company would mean for consumers?
I think it's too soon to know. The merger still faces several steps. It'll face federal approval and all of those kinds of things. I talked with some people who said the merger could be a good thing if the company remains responsible to consumers and it continues to advance a clean energy agenda. But there are concerns that the bigger the company gets and the more political weight that it has available to it, that will be detrimental to consumers.
Let's get a call in here if we could. Christine is calling in from Port Richey. Christine, thank you for joining us. What do you have to say?
Hi, thanks for taking my call. I have a lot to say about this. I'm a single working parent in Florida, and back in the winter months when it was so cold, my electric bill just skyrocketed, and I was chipping away at it. But about a month and a half ago, my bill was almost $400.
Oh, wow.
So I called them and said, let me set up a payment plan. And they said, nope, kick rocks. If it's not paid by this day, you're shut off. So I am a door dasher, and I had to tuck my child in, pay for childcare, and work almost 3 solid 24-hour shifts to come up with that money to pay Duke Energy.
Oh, my goodness.
I could not believe that they didn't care. They had no compassion at all.
Christine, we're running up against the clock here, but thank you so much for your call. Just briefly in the last 20 seconds or so, Amy, I mean, some of the experts you spoke to said this is basically a real challenge for a lot of families in Florida.
Absolutely. She makes an excellent point. The experts that I talked to, they all emphasize that behind these numbers are people and families who are facing tough choices, like whether to go see a doctor or get medical care or keep their air conditioning running during the warmest months of the year. And experts I talked to about this characterize this situation as a crisis.
Indeed. Going to have to leave the conversation there, but Amy Green with Inside Climate News, thank you so much for sharing some of your reporting with us. Really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
Well, coming up next, we're talking about the Rays Memorandum of Understanding with Hillsborough County and the City of Tampa with County Commissioner Joshua Wostal. Are you following this story? What do you think about the public being asked for nearly $1 billion to help pay for the stadium? Give us a call, 813-755-6562. That's 813-755-6562 or FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. Florida Matters Live and Local continues. Stay with us.
On the next Fresh Air, writer Jesmyn Ward on her new essay collection on grief, motherhood, and survival, titled On Witness and Respair. Ward won the National Book Award twice for her novels Salvage the Bones and Sing Unburied Sing. She'll tell us about finding hope after losing her brother, her partner, and her grandmother. Join us.
Great conversation on Fresh Air tonight at 7 on WUSF.
Tampa General is Florida's premier academic health system. Together with USF Health Morsani College of Medicine, Tampa General delivers groundbreaking innovation and life-saving care. For more information, visit tgh.org.
Have you heard your Florida's new podcast, Defenders of the Everglades? This week you'll hear from the National Audubon Society's Joe Browder, who asked Marjorie Stoneman Douglas for help in stopping what would have become the world's largest airport. Listen at wusf.org/defenders.
Welcome back to Florida Matters Live and Local. I'm Matthew Petty. Well, this week, the Hillsborough County Commission and the Tampa City Council are going to vote on a memorandum of understanding on the proposed new Rays baseball stadium in Tampa.
For nearly 20 years, folks have waited for this moment, wondering about where the future of this team would be. And this memorandum of understanding is a monumental step towards securing the future of Major League Baseball right here in Tampa. We couldn't be prouder.
That's Rays CEO Ken Babby talking at a press conference last week. Now, if you've been following along with the saga of the Tampa Bay Rays' quest for a brand new stadium, you'd be forgiving for getting a bit of a sense of deja vu hearing those words there. The MOU outlines what the public would chip in to pay for the $2.3 billion stadium, but it's a non-binding agreement, and there's plenty of support for the plan from the likes of Tampa Mayor Jane Castor, Hillsborough County Commissioner Ken Hagan, Hillsborough College President Ken Atwater, and Governor Ron DeSantis. That's just to list a few, but the plan's got some skeptics as well. County Commissioner Joshua Wostal is one. He represents District 7. It's one of 3 county-wide commissioners. Josh Wostal joins us now. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And if you've got questions or you want to make a comment on this, you can weigh in. The number is 813-755-6562. That's 813-755-6562. Does $976 million in public funds seem like a good deal for this proposed stadium? You can also email FloridaMatters@wusf.org. And by the way, we have actually reached out to Commissioner Hagan to be on the show. The invitation stands. We'd love to speak with the Rays leadership on the show as well. Commissioner Wostal, you've taken a look at this memorandum of understanding. It is, as I said, a non-binding agreement. So why is it so important to the future of the stadium?
Well, I think that the biggest thing from the MOU that I would take away is that we still don't have any of the documentation at all to demonstrate why the stadium costs $2.3 billion. No documentation exists to justify the site plan details of why it costs that much money. It might be a $1 billion stadium for all we know, and we only need to pitch in $400 million. We just don't know because we haven't received any proof.
What would you need to see?
Well, we need to see the detailed site plans that have been requested by AECOM and the Tampa Sports Authority. We would need to see their proof of financing, which also still doesn't exist. And the excuse of, well, Rob Manfred from the MLB vetted us, trust us. No bank is going to take that as proof of financing. We need to see those hard facts. And we also need to see the biggest element that's completely missing from the Memorandum of Understanding is that nothing about the mixed-use development that's allegedly going to bring us all of these billions of dollars of taxable revenue exists. We have no guarantees or proof of concepts in place to say that we are actually going to get our money back.
Yeah, on that note, I mean, City Commissioner Alan Clendenin says this is more than just a baseball stadium deal. It's a city-building deal. I mean, do you think the county risks losing out on that revitalization project by voting against the stadium if that were to happen?
Well, the good news to come out of all of this saga is that we know that the state is willing to put that land up for a redevelopment deal, 120 acres. And if it really is that it needs an anchor stadium, well, we already have an anchor stadium for that site that we already own called the Raymond James Stadium across the street, where the state also planned to build a bridge connecting it. So if that area is really up for revitalization, then let's go through a normal request for proposal process. Let's make it fair. The owners need to purchase it from the taxpayers, and then they can reap their benefits from the development, and we will reap our developments through our anchor stadium.
Let me read an email here from Chris in Town and Country who writes, I've already expressed my opposition to using our local tax revenues to our commissioners in writing and by phone. Yesterday, I received a mailer from the Rays claiming this project will create more than $5 billion in new tax revenue. Can it be explained how they arrived at this number, especially in light of multiple studies that show little to no net financial benefit for these types of projects? Thanks for that email, Chris. I mean, what about that, Commissioner?
Well, Chris, it's a great question, which was already answered in the big AECOM study, where they said that because the Rays refused or declined to provide them with any of the information that was requested to be able to prove those numbers, that the Rays originally came in at a $6 billion taxable revenue. AECOM says that that number is, quote, mathematically impossible to achieve, that they must be using outside source multipliers to reach that number, and that they believed that at a maximum it would be about $2.3 billion of taxable revenue. But then even after that, I proposed the question that all of the studies, both the Rays and the counties, have been on what's called market rate revenue for all of these apartments that they're proposing. But the Rays are going around the community suggesting that there's going to be a ton of affordable housing, including Mayor Jane Castor said it, that there would be affordable housing. And if it is going to be a lot of affordable housing, well, that's abated from property tax levies, which means that the taxable revenue is probably somewhere negative of $2 billion at this point.
But I've heard from the likes of Ken Hagan, I've heard him say publicly taxes aren't going to be raised to pay for this.
Respectfully, I'm going to be answering those questions tomorrow. I disagree with that analysis. Also, respectfully to Commissioner Hagan, he said that, quote, in the February meeting that we put forward this item, to be clear, general revenue funds, e.g. your property taxes, will not be considered. There are $103 million of your local general revenue funds and property taxes being considered. It's on the very last page of the county item on Wednesday called reserves/cash. That is general revenue funds. We've moved way beyond any deal that Commissioner Hagan had originally put forward.
The number, if you want to join the conversation, 813-755-6562. That's 813-755-6562. Let's go to Mark in Plant City. Mark, what's on your mind?
Hey, it's great talking to you. You know, it's a thing to say, what are we getting back, and what's the measurement of the return on all of this? And on my show, Baseball Biz, my co-host Matt Germain came up with a very good plan, I thought, and that is the naming rights of this new stadium. Now, you know, I think the Phillies are getting like $95 million with what their naming rights, and others are gathering quite a bit. So I think that whatever deal the city and county put together, the Rays part of that should be where the Rays are giving whatever funds are coming in from the naming rights back to the city and county until whatever they put into the pot has come back. So if you invested $200 million, you know, once those naming rights cupped over $200 million, then the Rays would get it, but everything prior to that, it would come back to the city and county.
Yeah, thank you for that call. So what about that? I mean, is that some of the detail that you're looking to see? Is that a good idea, do you think?
Yeah, Mark, unfortunately, that's also covered in this MOU. I've talked about it. The Rays are demanding 100% revenue of all sources, including the naming rights, including the ancillary concerts. They want all ticket revenue, concession revenue, parking revenue, naming rights revenue. These are all things that the commissioners are voting on tomorrow to potentially agree that the Rays are going to be able to retain 100% of all the revenue sources that you just mentioned.
Let's get another call in here. Roger calling in from Tampa. Roger, what are you thinking?
Well, I have a little different take on that. I'm wondering why the Rays can't take a mortgage out on the stadium they're using as their home based on the income that they make. You know, I've owned homes and I've rented apartments over the years here in Tampa, and they were all based, the apartment choices and home choice was based on how much my wife and I could afford. And we afforded it. We paid for our home. We paid our taxes, both state and city and national, and we got by. But it seems to me with the Rays, with their multi-million-dollar salaries and promises of, further income from, what was just discussed with naming rights and all the other promotions and things they do, that they could not afford a mortgage that was reasonable based on their income.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, are you suggesting the players should take the mortgage or the team ownership?
Well, yes, but we paid rent for the apartments we went to, and the rent was based on the owner's debt and what he felt the worth of the space was. So I don't think there's much difference. We also paid, income taxes and whatever that would apply to renters. And I'm sure that the rental fees that we paid were taxed, by the city and county as business income.
Roger.
So ownership, I think, is not the primary thing. It's the use of the property.
Roger, thank you so much for your call. I really appreciate that. I mean, does that sort of come back in some way, Commissioner Wostal, to the idea of knowing where the Rays component of the funding, because they are coughing up, more than $1 billion, or they will, for the stadium. But you're saying you want to know more about where that money's coming from?
Yeah, I mean, it's purely speculative right now that they even have their finances. We keep being told that they do. I don't know about. I do agree with the caller, though. I think the largest contract right now in the MLB for one player is $700 million contract. And you do have to start begging the question. I think it's it's a several-year period.
So that's a third of a stadium.
Right. And, speaking of $700 million, respectfully to the new owner of the Rays, he did just find $700 million in cash to buy Beazer Homes out of Georgia. And it begs the question of, well, you could find $700 million of cash for that home company because it's going to make you profit. But you can't find $700 million of cash for the stadium because it's your loss leader and you want the taxpayers to subsidize the losses.
So wait, you're saying baseball is a loss leader? Because that's not what we're hearing from the supporters. They're saying this is going to be a good deal for the city and the county.
Oh, even the owners. I don't even think the owners would go so far. They've said some pretty speculative things at this point that I don't believe will ever come to a reality. But I believe that even they know that the stadium itself is the loss leader. It's the mixed-use development that they stand to make their riches off of.
But that would be good for the city, wouldn't it? Having a mixed-use development in that site?
And
the county.
It all depends on how much we have to go up and by what means. We're now putting I want to be more clear about this. We're putting people's property taxes up for this. This is low-income residents, people working paycheck to paycheck. Their property taxes are now going to be paid for this rich and wealthy stadium to move forward. That's a question that we should all be soul-searching about, I think, at the end of the day. It's not about the answer could be that no taxes make sense. They could say that 50% taxes. Maybe there's an answer in the middle. But right now, the deal on the table, just to wear it down, is that the taxpayers are being bludgeoned to death by this deal. We have no guarantees that there's going to be any return. We don't understand the costs. And I think that that's reality that we're faced with if this moves forward.
All right, let's get another call in here. Christine is calling in. You're on the air, Christine. What are you thinking?
Well, I just have a comment to make. I grew up in Boston, and I spent lots of time at Fenway. And the whole family would go, and we could buy hot dogs and popcorn and have the best time, even when the Red Sox weren't doing so well. Now, I can't take my grandkids to see any sporting event, including the Rays, because it's so expensive. I think that if they're going to be making all this money, they should lower the ticket prices so that the average people can go. I know I can't go. I'm a retired nurse, and I'm not a millionaire, but it's just a lot of money to spend for one day. It's like Disney World. Thank God I took my kids there years ago, because today it's like $1,000 or more dollars a day just to go to walk in the park.
Yeah, those prices are quite high. Christine, thank you so much for your call. We really appreciate that. I mean, is that sort of something you're thinking about as well, Commissioner?
Well, I appreciate the caller because one thing that I plan to address tomorrow is this fantastical clause in there called the no harm deal that Ken Babby keeps proposing and everything. No harm. Just like the caller said right there, you're taking this lady's property taxes to pay for this stadium. If we had the money to give to the stadium, that means we have the ability to reduce her property taxes, and she's struggling to afford to take her own grandkids to enjoy these the same amenities that you're going to force her to pay for. That right there is a harm on its face. And so the caller understands, and everybody else, they are trying for the new model of MLB stadiums, which is a very high-end stadium, to justify significantly higher ticket prices, pricing even more people out of being able to attend.
Running up against the clock here, but just before we go, Commissioner, does it feel like you're the only one asking to have a closer, deeper look at this deal?
Yeah, and it's really unfortunate because I want to be clear, we all promised the taxpayers on the 2024 CIT renewal that this would, quote, not be used for new professional sports stadiums. And that's exactly what's in this MOU tomorrow. Even if you like the stadium, you have to accept that tomorrow would be an intentional disrespect and lie to the taxpayers of Hillsborough County if we move forward with CIT uses. And that on its face should make everybody feel very disrespected.
We're going to have to leave it there, but Hillsborough County Commissioner Joshua Wostal, thank you so much for being with us. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
We'll come back up next to meet a pool champ from Tampa. Continue in a moment.
I'm Indira Lakshmanan, a stark image from the 1989 Tiananmen Square massacre in Beijing. A lone man stands in front of a column of tanks.
Tank Man and June 5th, which is actually what an awful lot of people think Tiananmen was all about. And in some respects, Tank Man is a great symbol, but is not the full story.
A new documentary takes a closer look next time on Here and Now.
Join us this afternoon from 1 to 3 on WUSF 89.7.
Funding for WUSF comes from listeners like you, and also Calico, stocked with designer fabrics for windows and reupholstery, plus decorating services. Inspiring colors and patterns are available at the new Calico Design Shop on Dale Mabry Highway. Learn more at calicocorners.com.
The old saying says there are no bad questions, but it certainly helps when a journalist working for you asks a good one.
What was it that drove that decision?
Do you still take issue with the deployment?
What is it? What's the easy way?
Did you feel like you had to be Mr. Rock and Roll all the time?
Your Source for News brings knowledge and curiosity to the conversation. Find out the answers with us every weekday on Morning Edition from NPR News.
Weekday mornings from 5 to 9 on WUSF 89.7.
Welcome back to Florida Matters Live and Local. I'm Matthew Petty. Well, if you play pool, you probably know that sound. Every spring, 6,000 pool players from across the country head to Las Vegas for the American Pool Player Association Championship. This year's winner came from right here in Tampa. Victoria Parker took home the cash prize after winning the yellow tier of the 8-Ball Classic. She's officially one of the best pool players in the country, and she joins us today. Victoria, thank you so much for being with us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This is awesome.
And you've got your cue with you. So that's the winning cue, the one you took with you to Vegas?
So it's not the one that I took to Vegas. I use a carbon fiber cue to shoot with.
Okay.
But this is the cue that I won with the set of prizes that I got. It's pretty cool because it's got like little trophies on it.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Nice little memorabilia.
Okay, so carbon fiber cues, is that something new in pool?
I think it's been around for a while.
Okay.
But usually pool players, they like to have one or the other. They like to play with wood or they like to play with carbon fiber. And I started off using wood, but after I think it was about a year, I got my hands on a carbon fiber, and I like that. You don't feel the deflection when you shoot, so I kind of transferred to that, and I've been using that now.
When you say you don't feel the deflection, is that like a kind of like the tremor of the ball running up your arm? Like, what does that mean?
I feel like people who are way more advanced in pool, they have a better understanding for it. For me, I don't feel too much of a difference. For me, the biggest thing is like when you're using wood, I usually have to use a glove to shoot with it to make the stroke smoother.
Oh, okay.
But with carbon fiber, you don't need a glove for that.
Oh, wow. Okay, so less equipment needed. Now, there's a massive trophy in here, which is a little off camera, but let me just kind of move it over. In fact, do you want to just grab it? Is that okay? Put the cue aside. Just sort of show it for the camera. That is probably the biggest trophy we've seen in here. That's pretty impressive.
Thank you. It's the biggest trophy I've ever held. So
yeah, is this like the kind of crowning achievement of your career so far?
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, I've won a couple bar tournaments, like local ones around the place, but this is definitely by far the fanciest thing I have.
Yeah. Okay. All right, you can put it back if that's all right. Just drop it. Okay. So tell me more about the competition. I mean, being a winner out of 6,000 people, that's a pretty big deal. What does this feel like?
Well, it feels amazing, but it also feels well earned because it was back in October of last year that I won regionals in the Tampa Bay area, and it was in that moment, that night, that I decided that I was going to, or that I wanted to be a champion, and I was going to put in all the time and effort and the hours that I needed to accomplish this. And so I said it back in October. I told my friends, I told my league operator, I was like, I'm going to do this. And I found a really good coach, and he was able to, and I asked him that night, I was like, hey, like, do you want to train a champion? Because I plan on being one. And he was like, yeah. And he's like, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be a lot of hours, a lot of work, a lot of effort. But he was willing to train me. And so we jumped right into it, and some days we'd spend upwards of 7 to 8 hours in the pool hall training on the weekends. I'm in multiple leagues, so I'm constantly playing throughout the week. On my best weeks, I'm playing all 7 days. When I get a little bit busier, sometimes it's more like 4 or 5 days, but I put in the time and I put in the effort. And, you know, even if you're brand new to the APA and you're a brand new player, it's like, this is proof that you can, if you have the drive and you have the effort and you want to do it, like, you can. Because, I mean, if I can do it, so can you.
If you're just joining us on Florida Matters Live and Local, we're talking with Victoria Parker. She's from Tampa, and she took home the cash prize and a ginormous trophy after winning the yellow tier of the 8-Ball Classic in Las Vegas, the pool championship. So she's officially one of the best pool players in the country. So tell me about that kind of moniker as well, the yellow tier of and the 8-Ball Classic. What exactly does that all mean for people who don't really know much about pool?
Yeah, of course. So in the 8-Ball world, you can be a skill level anywhere between 2 to a 7, and 7 being the most impressive group of players. And I am a skill level 4, so that would be the yellow tier. And so I went into the tournament as a skill level 4. Based on how I played, I got watched quite a few times by officials, and they decided that I was shooting a little bit better than a 4, so I got moved up to a 5 in the middle of the tournament.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That probably doesn't happen very often.
It depends. I mean, I faced a couple of 5s, or yeah. So I think my last 3 matches leading up to the finals, I played, all of them were 5s, and then the woman I played in the finals, she was a true 4, so she didn't get moved up, but I mean, she shot really well. And so it's possible to get moved up, but it's also possible to stay right where you are. And I think with all the training I did over the last 6 months, I was expecting to get moved up. I was already in that mental headspace of that it was going to happen. It was just when it was going to happen.
Mm-hmm. And 8-Ball Classic, so are there anything unique about that style of pool?
So you have the 8-Ball Classic and you have the 9-Ball Shootout, and which is just 9-ball, which is also a really fun game. I play that once a week, but my heart lies in 8-ball. And we actually had one of my friends that I play with in 9-ball. His name's Chris Chambers. He got 3rd place in the 9-ball Shootout. So we have a lot of Tampa talent, a lot of good shooters coming out of Tampa Bay. So I mean, 8-ball with 9-ball, you're shooting the balls in order. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 9. And then 8-ball, you're doing stripes or solids. And so off the break, if you make a ball, that's the ball that you're shooting at. So you make a solid in, you're shooting solids for the rest of the game.
And you don't have to shoot the numbers in any order?
No, you can just do it at any point as long as it's the same one that you have. So if you're solids, you have to shoot all the solids up until you have gotten rid of them all, and then you shoot the 8-ball. And if you're stripes, you do it that way. How
did you get into pool, and how long have you been playing for?
I would say I've been playing around 5 to 6 years, but I didn't take it seriously until about October of 2024. That's when I joined the Tampa Bay APA. I had some coworkers that were on a team, and they were like, hey, we have a spot open. We see you playing at Peabody's all the time. Would you like to join us? And I was like, absolutely. Let's do this. And so I joined, and it turns out, I thought I was joining an 8-ball team, but it turns out it was a 9-ball team. And when I showed up, I was like, what is this? I don't know what to do. So they taught me on the spot, and I ended up winning my very first match. And I was like, hey, 9-ball's not that bad. Let's give it a go. And then a couple weeks later, I ended up joining an 8-ball team, and I was like, yeah, this is where it's at. This is what I like. And so I was able to join a couple more 8-ball teams, and now I'm on a total of 4 or 5 teams at the moment, and so it keeps me pretty busy throughout the week.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And as a team, I mean, how does that work? You're still competing individually?
Yeah, so you have a team of 8, and usually it's 5 versus 5. So out of your 8 players, you get to select 5 players, and You can't go over the skill level max of 23. So there's a little bit of math involved.
Sure.
But I mean, I do want to give a huge shout out to my team Chalk Dirty to Me last year. I mean, the whole reason why I wanted to go back as a single is
wait, hang on, just back up a minute. Your team name is what?
Chalk Dirty to Me.
Okay, and that's reference to like the chalk you use for the.
Yeah,
okay.
a lot of pool names actually like to be a play on words. So there's a bunch of good names out there. But my 9-ball team Chalk Dirty to Me, we went out to Vegas last year in August, and we got 9th in the world. And
oh wow!
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And we like the experience was just so exhilarating, and I was like, I want to go back and I want to do this, and I want to play in more matches. And so I was like, I got to find a way to get back and do this. And so like my teams, we're all trying to get back to Vegas as a group. But the nice thing about the APA is once you've become an established player, which means you've secured at least 10 matches in your format, you can then start competing as an individual player. And so there's 3 steps, and the first step is to win a single boards, which is a group of 8 players. And so I think it's about 3 matches that you just have to win. And then you get invited to either fall or spring regionals. And then you can get to compete against everybody around the surrounding area. And if you win that, then you get invited to Vegas. And then you get to play against everyone. And you're playing against people from the USA, from Canada, Singapore, Japan. Like it's awesome.
Wow. So kind of like the World Cup. Now, speaking of nicknames, your nickname is T-Pain, is that right?
Yes. I played softball when I was back in middle school and high school, and I had a batting coach that gave me the name T-Pain because he always thought I brought the pain. And so a lot of people in the pool community, they have their own nicknames. And after a while of playing, people were like, what's your nickname? And people were trying to give me nicknames, and they were all really silly. And so I was like, well, like back in the day, they used to call me T-Pain. And then everybody just jumped on it. They thought that was so good. And so it kind of just stuck. And so, yeah, I got T-shirts with T-Pain on it. And yeah, I think it's a good fit.
Is there trash talk in pool?
Oh, I mean, for the most part, I would say like regular matches, everyone's pretty professional. We keep it nice and sweet. But I mean, when you're practicing with your friends and everything, yeah, you like to talk a little bit.
Now, you talked about math before and kind of figuring out the level and everything, but there's some kind of math involved in the game itself, right? Like calculating angles and stuff.
Absolutely.
How do you do that? Like, does that just come naturally to you? Or do you just sort of study the board, before you go in? Like, how do you think through shots?
So I really enjoyed geometry in high school. So angles have always been a thing that I've liked. But yeah, so the thing about pool is it's so finicky. There's so many things that can change, like just the temperature outside can affect how the balls roll on the table. It can affect how your cue functions. And so not only that, but like adding spin to a ball, like English, if you're doing inside English or you're doing top spin or like a draw shot, everything you do will affect how another ball reacts. And then when it hits a rail, how it will react off of that rail. So even just making the tiniest adjustment can change how the table will, like how it works out on the table. And so I think that's one thing I really like about it, because like, I mean, it's kind of like golf too. Like one day you can be playing really, really well, and then the next not so well. And it's like, oh man.
Yeah, the nuance. We've only got about 30 seconds left here, but what's next for you? What's the next kind of championship you've got your eyes on?
The West Coast Challenge is coming up soon, and I've talked to a couple people about the U.S. Amateur Championship, very prestigious tournament. No money involved, but it is a very prestigious award, and I think I would like to try my hand at that, because instead of just playing skill level 4s, I would get to play all sorts of skill levels. So I think that would be an interesting challenge that I'm looking forward to.
Well, good luck. Wish you all the best there. Victoria Parker, winner of the yellow tier of the 8-Ball Classic at the APA Championship in Las Vegas. Genuine pool shark from right here in our backyard. Thank you so much, Victoria.
Thank you for having me.
That's our show for today, but next time on Florida Matters Live and Local, former Fire Chief Jim Large is running for Mayor of St. Pete. You can find out more about him and what he's running on tomorrow at noon. Our executive producer is Grayson Doctor. Our producers are Amelie Horace and Quincy Walters. Engineers Jackson Harp, Gio Garvin, and Blake Bass. Jackson composed the theme music, and Chandler Balcom handled the video today. You can subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Watch on WSF's YouTube channel. I'm Matthew Petty. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you tomorrow.